Hello, lab experts. Welcome once again to the Rock Diagnostics podcast. Happy New Year to you. This is our first episode of the year. We're happy to have you here. Today, we are going to be talking about something that's extremely important. Well, this is the beginning of the year. We're all thinking about New Year's resolutions. What better resolution
Mm.
could there be than to start looking for a mentor? And today, we're going to be talking about mentorship, why it's important to medical laboratory scientists. And in order to speak about that, we have with us today a medical laboratory scientist, Odinaka Kingsley Obeta. And we're going to go into this topic. And if you have any questions, of course, as usual, ask them in the comment section. You'll be able to contact us and also contact Kingsley to get more information about the topic. So thanks again for being here with us today, Kingsley. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing very, very good, Robertson. It's a pleasure, of course, to be joining the conversation, and of course, the fact that this is a podcast where we discuss issues that affect the medical laboratory science profession. I feel quite excited to be here as a medical lab scientist. So, I must say kudos
It's
to you and
wonderful
the
to
entire
have you
team
here
for
too.
putting this together and prioritizing it.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to also come here to sit with us and to share your experience. Because it's true that we need more medical laboratory scientists to come out to the public to talk about what they know, so that others can learn from it, not just
Mm.
other medical laboratory scientists, but also the public. And the topic you wanted to talk about is one that usually people don't spend a lot of time discussing. You want to talk about
Yeah.
nurturing transgenerational leadership through mentorship. Mentorship within medical laboratory science is already something that people don't talk a lot about, although it does
Hmm.
happen. It's not necessarily structured. But in your case,
Yeah.
why is it something you're interested in?
Okay. So, as a medical laboratory science student from my first year in the university, one of the things that I've been so passionate about is contributing towards the growth and development of the medical lab science profession. I figured out quite early that growing up or studying the medical lab science program in the university, there were quite a lot of gaps in terms of how younger medical lab science students are able to make certain kind of decisions that affect their career and also affect their life as a whole. So, if you make a comparison with other professions in the healthcare system, especially, for instance, the undergraduate program, I don't know how it is in a couple of other countries in Africa, but then in Nigeria, you realize that the medical laboratory science program in the university, we don't have like a system, a proper, a well structured system for mentorship of undergraduates. And that was a very serious issue. So I happened to be one of the lucky ones who was privileged enough to, get mentors on time as an undergraduate. And that's because I understood the concept of mentorship and I know how impactful it could be, even with regards to my journey, in the profession. So at a very good time, and I planned properly to seek for mentorship from individuals who I recognized early enough to be persons who can provide proper guidance for me. And of course, I wasn't turned down. So these individuals came into my journey at that point and were able to provide strategic mentorship. And with time, I saw how much of an impact that had on my career as a medical lab science student, before even graduating from the university. And even after graduation as a young medical laboratory science professional, I'm seeing how much impact mentorship have had, um, you know, on my life as an individual. So, but then it keeps hurting me that a lot of undergraduates we have across the universities don't have this same opportunity that I had at some point, and they don't because there's no system that have been created for that to make that happen. And a lot of them don't even have the understanding on how to even go about seeking mentorship. A lot of them don't even know why mentorship is important. And they keep facing challenges in their career and they have no one to talk to. Yet we have a lot of senior professionals who are well positioned to provide this guidance for these younger ones. So I just felt like this would be a very interesting conversation to have at this point, especially because we are addressing a global audience and then because it is also an issue that affects the young people across the African continent. So we are young Africans, and then we are clamoring to achieve the Agenda 2063 of the AU to build an Africa for Africa by Africans. And the only way we can do that is by making sure that we address whatever challenges that exist in the systems, that should provide the standard leadership that we need, even if it is a challenge that affects our profession where we practice. currently. So basically, that's why I choose to have this conversation. Yeah,
One thing that you went over that was interesting, you said you weren't turned down. And I think that's one thing that sometimes scares people about mentorship. They think maybe I'm going to go to this professor or to this doctor and they're going to turn me down. I think in many cases, people are willing to help, even if it's in small ways, even if they don't have that much time, they'll be willing to help in one way or another. So it's important to get your
hmm,
courage and then go ahead and then try and ask at least after you've tried. You'll know what the response is, but at least until you've tried, you don't know what is going to happen. But personally, you said
yeah.
mentorship was able to help you a lot. How was it able to help you? Can you give us some examples of how it helped you, maybe to encourage some of those who are listening to this to start looking for mentors, or to encourage mentors to actually start looking for mentees and people that can help within their field?
Yeah, so like I did mention, the need for mentorship, especially in the medical lab science profession, is actually a crucial one, and is in fact currently a matter of urgency. So, which is the reason why I have also mentioned that mentorship currently is urgently needed because of the need for transgenerational leadership. The world is growing to a height where there's need to begin to pass down knowledge from the older generation to the younger ones, because the younger ones are beginning to, we're usually called leaders of tomorrow, and apparently our tomorrow has eventually happened. So we we are currently in the position where we're seeking for knowledge from the older generation in order to better our own leadership style, our own leadership concepts in the current generation. So one of the things that mentorship has given me as an opportunity, or one of the ways through mentorship has helped me, is giving me the leverage to make the right kind of decisions at the point where they are needed the most. You would agree that the medical lab science profession is quite diverse. There are quite a lot of specialties. There are quite a lot of fields of interest across the medical lab science profession entirely. So you get to a point where some undergraduate programs would require you require to specialize. For instance, as an undergraduate, probably you're getting to your fourth year or fifth year in the university. It depends on what the program looks like in your own country, and then you're expected to either specialize in histopathology, in medical microbiology, hematology, or whichever specialty of your interest. Being able to make that choice sometimes requires the guide of a mentor, right? Because even though it's a field that you're currently studying at that point, you have no picture of what practicing in that field looks like in the real world. So you probably would enjoy getting guidance from a mentor who is already practicing in these fields, and such a person is able to provide you with some kind of recommendation or advice on what to do and how to go about it, or which particular specialty would best fit your area of interest. So I enjoyed that so much coming up as a young undergraduate studying medical laboratory sciences in the great University of Jos. And I would not forget having the likes of Dr. Solomon Cholom, who is currently is currently a virology specialist at the King's College Hospital in London. He's been my mentor as far back as my second year in the university. So at the point where I needed to make the choice of which area to probably build my undergraduate project, he was one of those persons who called my attention to say, "You're very much passionate about malaria. You're so much interested in combating malaria at different parts of the world. I think the best thing for you to do at this point is to venture into medical parasitology and build your interest in that area." So that was one guide, and that was just one kind of help I got. Another area where mentorship came through for me is during my research. When it was time to design proposals for my undergraduate research, I had no idea on how to go about it. I also had no idea on what particular topic to go for with regards to my undergraduate research, you know. But with the help of my mentor, I was able to get a proper guideline on what to do and how to eventually make that decision. And even in the course of implementing my project in the community where I eventually worked, I had some help from my mentor, and that made a lot of sense. It even goes far beyond just having someone who is already practicing as a mentor. Having a senior colleague who is still an undergraduate, for instance, in a higher class, was so much of a help to me at that point as an undergraduate. because transiting, for instance, from your preclinical classes to your clinical classes in year three, how we do it in Nigeria here, you discover that a senior colleague who is already in clinical sciences have a clearer understanding of what hematology entails, what chemical pathology entails, histopathology entails, and all that. Such a person is able to provide you with strategic guidance on how to better prepare for these courses as you enroll into clinical sciences. So that transition is being made easy as you come into the profession, as you come into clinical sciences, rather. So, and that is because there's someone there who is able to provide you with a guide. There's someone there who is able to hold your hands and take you through that particular hurdle. For a lot of undergraduates, this is usually one of the most difficult decisions they make. This is usually one of the most difficult seasons in the entire study period in the university, you know. And again, even when it comes to the point where when you're preparing to transit from being a student to a younger professional, the choice of where to go for your clinical internship, which facility, what to leverage during your clinical internship, the kind of skills you want to pay attention to the most, the kind of certifications you want to probably acquire. Do you understand? These kind of recommendations usually will come from a mentor, because you have no idea of what the job market looks like. You also have no idea on what the clinical internship opportunity looks like. You're going into this particular area of life for the very first time. So mentorship, just the benefits
Yeah.
cannot just be quantified. It cannot just be quantified, especially for a program like medical laboratory sciences. And of course, you know that because this is a professional program, and of course, the medical laboratory science program is considered like the training program for the detectives in healthcare. So you are one of the most important person in the entire chain of healthcare delivery system. So
Yeah.
the choices you make, is so significant such that it can either make or mar your career going forward. So if you have a mentor on time, or you have someone who is able to provide you with that guidance at every phase of your journey through the profession, it makes the journey quite easy, and then it also gives you a soft landing, and it also puts you in a position to make the best of decisions at all times. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of the things also is sometimes when you're still in university and you're doing your medical laboratory science degree, before you get to internships, you don't really know what the work is actually like up to that point is the
Yeah.
theory. So you might need someone to help you ease
Hmm.
into the actual practice of it to learn what exactly you need to do, how are things supposed to be working, how do you work out the stress that may be involved with working in a laboratory, how do you figure things out, even at home with family, when it comes to, okay, you might not
Yeah.
be available on days where that's supposed to be public holidays, you might not be available for specific events that need to be happening. And so you need someone who has a little bit more experience to be able to give you a better idea of what
Hmm.
can be done and how you should be able to move to ensure that you don't fall into the same traps that maybe they fell in their own time. Now, there's one thing you talked
Yeah.
about a bit earlier, transgenerational leadership. What do you put in that term? What do you mean by transgenerational leadership?
Yeah, so when we're talking about transgenerational leadership, especially in the context of medical laboratory sciences or the medical lab science profession, we are basically referring to an opportunity or a process through which we are able to ensure continuity and evolution of the profession, right? So we're able to create a platform for knowledge transfer between older professionals in the profession, to emerging young professionals in the profession. So transgenerational leadership is basically that platform is basically that platform or that process that is established, that serves as a link between the older professionals and the younger professionals. So it doesn't matter if we're referring to, professionals who are already at the rank of professors, for instance, and younger PhD holders, or we're referring to younger PhD holders and people with professionals with master's degree, or we're referring to those with master's degree and those with undergraduate degree. We just been able to establish a link between a generation of professionals, and then a younger generation of professionals is basically what we are looking
Hmm.
at, transgenerational leadership. So establishing that concept that sustains the impact that is already made by a
Yeah.
generation in the profession, you know. Yeah, so we don't have a generation of medical laboratory create so much solution and then they leave, and then the next generation is unable to sustain that impact that have been made, right? So being able to bridge that gap and ensure continuity in impact, ensure sustainability in terms of the solutions that have been generated or the innovations that have been created is what we refer to as transgenerational leadership in the medical and science profession. That's my context, you know.
All right, all right. I see what you mean. Now, according to you, if we're able to, let's say, move things in this direction, what effect do you think it's going to have on medical laboratory science? How is it going to help? Let's say in 5, 10 years, 15,
Ah,
20 years. Where do you see this going?
yeah, to be very candid with you, we live in a world that is ever changing and ever growing, right? So, and what this also means is that the pathogens that we deal with every single day are also they're also transforming and becoming even stronger. They're becoming even more difficult to combat and even more difficult to detect. Of course, we are currently expressing a very serious issue of antimicrobial resistance across the world. Not just It's no longer just an African thing. It has never even been, but then is currently like a global health emergency in a way, a global health emergency in a way, right? And we're seeing this apply to even some major disease that affects, for instance, Africa, like malaria. So we're beginning to also record anti-malaria drug resistance. We're beginning to, see mutation happen with certain strains of certain diseases, and we're beginning to record more frequent epidemics and pandemics, across communities and even countries and all that. So this is a very serious issue. Now, if we're unable to build transgenerational leadership, across all fronts of the medical life science profession, one of the implications is that in the next 5 years, in the next 20 years, we may end up having, for instance, the challenge of a disease that have hit the world in the past and have been successfully dealt with. And then we have a generation of professionals who will find it difficult to be able to attend to this particular issue. So we're going to build a generation of younger professionals who are just going to be working cycles without necessarily coming up with any standard innovation, or without being able to modify the already existing motivation, the already existing innovations, So, for instance, I'm a very passionate advocate for malaria elimination across Africa, and I currently serve as the West African lead for the African Leaders Malaria Alliance Advisory Council. And one of the things that is being encouraged right now, in the fight against malaria is, bringing in innovation to the currently existing tools used in combating malaria and finding a way to see how they are modified in such a way that they can be able to match, you understand, the pressure, coming in from, the what do you call them now, the malaria parasite, you know. So we have to build transgenerational leadership so that we can pass down knowledge successfully to the younger generation. And if this is done, then we're going to build a generation of young people who are not only professionals, but then are thinking professionals, right? We're going to build a generation of young
Yeah.
professionals who are thinking on the spot. A generation of young professionals who are highly innovative, high emphasis on highly innovative and highly creative, right? So they will be able to be such professionals who have the capacity to build on already existing solutions, and then they will be able to fit into the emerging technological advancement we're seeing happening across different parts of the world right now, and even in healthcare. So the impact is just so massive if we key into this and if we key into it now, right? The impact is just so massive.
Now, let me play a bit devil's advocate for a short period of time. Some of the older generation might say that the younger people are not as interested, that they don't want to work, and that they try, but people don't seem to show much interest, don't seem to put in more energy. What would you say to those people?
Robert, to be very frank with you, okay, my very self, I've been, if even though a mentee to a number of mentors, I've also been a mentor to hundreds of medical laboratory science undergraduates across Nigeria. As I speak to you, I probably am mentoring close to about 30 young medical laboratory science students across different universities in Nigeria. and I've been in this deliberate act of
Mm.
providing mentorship to younger professionals for the past close to 5 years, right? So through this journey, I've mentored close to 1,000, if not more, medical laboratory science undergraduate. And one thing I can point out for a fact is that the younger professionals or the young medical laboratory science students and even young professionals are really passionate about mentorship. They really want to learn. They really want to get knowledge. They want to know how to go about their journey, but they don't know who to ask. And the reason why they are also, some of them are actually also having a lot of challenges with asking the people around them is because they've also made an attempt to reach out to a couple of senior colleagues who have not given them the attention. So I would not also completely say that younger professionals or young students, are not also to be held accountable, or not are not to be held responsible for not seeking mentorship, because the fact is that there are quite a number of other undergraduates and other young professionals who are really not interested in walking the path of the older generation. So they are also making it difficult for mentorship to exist. But to be candid with you, the percentage of young people who are passionate about mentorship can be more than the percentage of the older generation who are willing to provide the mentorship. So now we're beginning to have a lot of gap
I
between
see.
the number of persons who are really willing to create the time. So we have older professionals who are already too busy with their life, and then they're already too busy with their career, and they think stopping a minute to hold the hands of a younger colleague upward is going to be a distraction to where they want to get to, right? They think like stopping to provide mentorship and guidance to younger colleagues or younger professionals or younger undergraduates is going to be like a delay in their journey. And this is a story for quite a lot of older professionals, So I strongly believe I've actually taken the time to
Yeah,
check this through, especially in the Nigerian context, and I've seen that the problem is not the younger ones. The problem have actually been the older ones creating the time and creating the platform, for the younger ones to leverage and gain mentorship. So it's not the fault of the young people. They are really willing. I am a young person. I know how many times I've seeked for mentorship, but probably because I know what I want and I know how to figure it out. You know, it's able to come easy for me. But I've also encountered a lot of undergraduates who are willing to know what to do. They're willing to get the guidance, but they always get either rejected or they get confused with regards to the choice of who to get to for mentorship. So it's a serious problem.
I see. What you said also reminded me. I don't remember who, but there was a lecturer of mine. I think it was a lecturer of mine, if I remember, who used to say essentially that one of the reasons why he mentors is because he doesn't want to be in a situation where one day he ends up in a hospital and then he sees one of his old students and then he has to wonder whether that student has gotten better over the years. He wants to know, he wants to make sure that he has trained people so that when he goes to a hospital and he sees it's one of his students, he's happy for that student to take care of him. And there's no fear in the background. The older generation should take into account is that at the end of the day, he wants to make sure that people who are in the field are really top notch.
This is actually one of the major reasons why I'm currently advocating for transgenerational leadership in medical laboratory science practice across Africa. This is one of the major reasons because the older professionals we have keep making the mistake of not creating systems. We're not saying provide. There are two things here. The first case scenario is that as a professional, you're able to know that it is your responsibility to provide mentorship for younger ones around you, right? So that particular case scenario exists. Then the second is that collectively, as a body of older professionals, it is important to set structures in place that provides this mentorship and makes it easy for younger colleagues to access mentorship. We can initiate like programs across maybe associations of medical laboratory professionals in different countries across Africa, create programs for like exchange programs.
Yeah,
And even when we have younger colleagues who come, for instance, to the laboratory for internships and all that, we can create we can create programs uh, within the internship time frame that equips them with solutions or guidance for their career advancement. These things have to be deliberately done in such a way that even when you fade out of the system, the system still
Yeah.
exists, and other ones coming after you can continue in that light. So if we don't create transgenerational leadership right now, the scenario you just painted out, that your lecturer shared, is definitely one of those things that is going to happen and is already happening in so many parts of the world that we probably don't have an idea right now. There's probably one professor somewhere lying in a clinic somewhere, and there's a medical lab science professional who, because he or she has not gotten proper mentorship or guidance, doesn't even have the requisite skill to provide the best of services at that time, right? So anybody can be a patient at any point. Being a professor, or being a PhD holder, or being a researcher, or whatsoever in the profession, does not guarantee your wellness 24 hours 7 throughout the years of your existence on the earth. At one point or the other, you're going to be in the clinic, and then you will need to be attended to by a younger colleague. So what effort have you made, or what effort are you making currently to ensure that this younger colleague is properly equipped? This is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And if you're probably one of those persons who is currently not making any effort, then you need to really prioritize. You need to really prioritize this, and you need to make a decision right now at the spot. You know, I'm able to keep count of the number of young people that I've probably mentored, and I'm still mentoring right now, because for me it's a deliberate thing. We're starting the year January already, and I already have a couple of student conferences that have been mapped to go speak and talk to these young people. And every time I have the opportunity to speak to younger professionals or young undergraduates, I don't just talk to them and leave. I make sure I create the time to also attend to some of their personal issues. You can't attend to everybody, right? But then when you do this, other senior colleagues around you or with you in such gathering are able to also see the importance of doing so, and they key into the process, right? And they key into the process. So this is what we're talking about. It has to be a deliberate thing. So else we wake up one day and then who knows? They we get a pharaoh who doesn't know Joseph in one clinic. In one clinic or the other. So basically that's it. It's quite important.
Yeah, it's quite important. And you see, so over the last 5 years, you've been able to mentor about 1,000 individuals. How do they get in contact with you, or how do you get in contact with them usually? What's that mechanism? Maybe that'll help some people also.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So for me, the journey started quite early, because I did mention that I got a mentor quite early, my second year in the university. So when I started to benefit from mentorship, and I saw how my life was improving as an undergraduate of the medical lab science profession, I made a deliberate act to replicate the same system for my younger ones. So while I was in second year, I had younger colleagues in first year in the university. As I moved to third year, I had other younger colleagues in second year, right? So for me, mentorship started immediately, even while being mentored. Okay, so while I gain knowledge, I'm also able to pass this knowledge across to the young people around me that I'm mentoring. And as I get more exposure, I also create a system such that I'm also able to equip them with the opportunity to get quite a lot of exposure as well. So, but I would say that what gave me the opportunity to be able to provide that mentorship for the large population I've highlighted is the fact that as an undergraduate, I've been a leader in the medical laboratory science profession all through. In my third year in the university, I was elected as the national president of the National Fellowship of Christian Medical Laboratory Science students across Nigeria, and I was overseeing over 46 higher institutions across Nigeria offering medical laboratory science program. So it made me an influential figure in the medical laboratory science space. And it also gave me the opportunity to provide, vast level of mentorship or, guidance to a lot of the undergraduates that I had with me at the time as either as student as well. And secondly, I also started to
Yeah.
gain quite a lot of achievement in the medical lab science profession. In my third year, I was given one of the most prestigious awards in the medical lab science profession in Nigeria as an ambassador of the medical lab science practice in Nigeria. So I won that award as a student in third year for my contribution to community events and engagement carried out by the Association of Medical Laboratory Scientists in Nigeria. So, you know, these recognitions kept coming in. In my fourth year, I would receive the Young Achievers Award, becoming like one of the first students to also achieve that particular status. So I was given that award as a student in my fourth year in the university by the Young Medical Laboratory Science Forum in Nigeria. That is like the umbrella body of all the young medical laboratory professionals across Nigeria. So some of these opportunities that kept coming created a platform to build my influence. And because I already was at the point of, I was already in the position of influence, and I also had a system to provide guidance for younger colleagues, it became easy for these people, for these younger professionals or these younger colleagues to reach out to me at different parts from different parts of the country. So I traveled to different universities across Nigeria by virtue of my role as the national president of the student fellowship, right? And that gave me the opportunity to interact with a lot of students from different universities, you know. And as a result of that,
Yeah.
I also worked with quite a lot of student leaders in that capacity. And when there's this saying that when you see the light, you tend to follow it because it becomes a guide, the only guide that you have at that point in time. So when these younger colleagues get to me, and I'm able to create the time to provide them with any form of guidance, it doesn't matter. Some of them have the challenge of just choosing what specialty to focus on. Some of them probably want to go into one form of public health intervention or the other, but they don't know how, right? They probably want to work on a project, they don't know how. I can't keep count, like for instance, the number of undergraduate projects across Nigeria that has my name in it. People work on their project and then they are stuck at some point, and the only person they can think of to reach to is me, and I'm probably not in their university. But then, because I've created that access, I've created a situation where accessibility is not a
Yeah.
problem between myself and my younger ones. It was easy for them to reach out to me. So this is how I was able to make this happen. And even after leaving, or even after graduating from the university, I ensured that I created more platforms for access, right? So I founded one of the non-profits that I currently lead in my third year in the university, Block Malaria Africa, right? So I founded Block Malaria Africa while I was still a student in the university in my third year. And majority of the volunteers we had at Block Malaria Africa are students across different health programs, and medical laboratory sciences was one of those programs. So yeah, so while I mentor medical lab science students, I also mentor medical doctors, or I also mentor students of medicine and surgery. I also mentor pharmacy students. I also mentor nursing students. You know, I also mentor through a lot of other programs like the Young African Leaders Initiative, YALI. The regional leadership training program they have in Ghana. I'm one of the I provide mentorship to a couple of their selected fellows, and some of them are actually medical lab science students, nursing, doctors, like that. So it's just about making sure you create the platform and then you create accessibility. When you become difficult to access,
Yeah.
that is what repels the interest of the young people around you from seeking mentorship from you, right? So one way to prove that you're really interested in supporting them is to make yourself accessible to them.
Yeah.
That way they find it easy to reach out to you. So I think basically that's it. Yeah,
Problem with that is for some people, the goal is to not be accessible. Some people make it their aim to make sure that
exactly.
they're not accessible. That's another issue. Hopefully, that's
this,
something that
this
we're able to
the issue of access is a
help
major
stop
problem.
eventually. Yeah. Now, in your case, you're able to put in place a system that works for you, that you've been able to grow over time. Now, you're saying that some of the, let's say, more experienced people in the field also need to try and figure out how to come together and then create a structured system that could help new individuals that get into the field. According to you, what could that look like? What do you think could be able to work?
Okay, so we've been able to try a couple of ideas, because aside being a passionate and a very young medical laboratory scientist myself, I'm also a social innovator, and I'm very much attracted to issues and problems. So whenever there is problem, I'm always drawn to problems, and one of the things that bring me there is always thinking about how to come up with the best. Myself and a couple of friends, led by scientist Gabriel Oke. He's one other young medical lab scientist that is contributing massively towards addressing this gap in mentorship in Nigeria. We came up with this idea to
Mhm.
start a project called MedLab Convo. right? We created MedLab Convo. MedLab Convo today is a registered non-profit here in Nigeria. It's fully registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission. We started MedLab Convo in 2019, and the idea was to create a platform that can equip
Mhm.
young medical lab science undergraduates and young medical lab science professionals with opportunities and skills that ordinarily they are not able to harness through the medical laboratory science curriculum. So there are quite a lot of, so we focus more on equipping young medical lab science undergraduates and younger professionals with soft
Okay.
skills, right? Like problem solving, critical thinking, and a host of others. We also introduce them to the rudiments of research. So we invite researchers from different parts of the world and host them on webinars, that happen across different months in the year, and then they teach them the basics of research and even help them go into research and get them to publish their first research papers and all that. We also kind of create an opportunity to help them access other international opportunities that they
Yeah.
are qualified for as young medical lab science students or young medical lab science professionals. So this is just, for instance, one system that is currently existing, and that's because some young individuals made the decision and raised funds within their circle to create this to serve as a solution. Now, I'll give you a hint, like through MedLab Convo, the work we do, in the year 2021, we did a project across Nigeria where we had medical lab science students volunteer for that project across 25 universities in Nigeria. And this project was aimed at providing a step-by-step guide on what medical lab science program is
Hmm.
about, and providing a guide on how to apply for the medical lab science program in the university. And this project was designed for secondary school students across Nigeria, right? Secondary school students across Nigeria. It will interest you to know that through this project, we were able to reach out to 20,000 secondary school students across 36 states of Nigeria. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
So, because we got to figure out that a lot of the times when young people at secondary school level want to apply for a course to study in the university, they either fail to realize the course combination for the medical lab science program, or they don't even have an idea. So they just see it on the job portal, and because nobody is there to explain to them what the program is about, some of them choose the program, but then they don't even know what the entire program is about. And when they come into the program, sometimes they're not even given the best
Yeah.
of orientation. So this program was targeted towards leveraging the power of
Yeah.
undergraduates in the medical lab science profession. You understand? Leveraging the number of undergraduates to further pass this knowledge across to
Yeah.
the younger ones in secondary school. And we saw massive impact. The application process, for instance, the application numbers for medical lab science program across different universities is far heightened currently. Do you understand? So this was just one of those examples. And now
Yeah.
the number of young medical lab science students
Mm.
that have volunteered on the MedLab Convo project, we have young medical lab science students that are currently working a lot of jobs in different countries across the world right now, even as undergraduates study medical lab sciences. So because they learn skills, like some of them are taught copywriting, some of them learn social media management. These are
Mhm.
skills that ideally they have the capacity to combine with their program, and they're able to gain more relevance out there. But then because nobody is providing the platform for them to learn these skills, then they miss out entirely on it. You know? So you have students right
Yeah.
now with MedLab Convo that at 300 level or at 400 level in the university, they're already earning, for instance, in dollars because they have one skill or the other that is being monetized, and they're able to provide certain kind of services. They review CVs, they write they write cover letters. Do you get? So these are what we're saying. So we have currently like young medical lab science students on the MedLab Convo team that have close to 20 research publications as undergraduates. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Do you get?
And that
So we've
helps.
been able to successfully prove that it is actually, yes. So if
It's
the
a big
platform
head
is
start.
created, it is possible for young undergraduates to achieve so much. So all what can be done is to ensure that platforms like this are replicated or are owned by the institutions regulating the medical lab science program in different countries across Africa. So if we have, for instance, the Medical Laboratory Science Council in Nigeria, and we have the Association of Medical Laboratory Scientists in Nigeria. These two umbrella bodies, that are the umbrella bodies guiding the medical laboratory science practice across the country, seeing the effort that have been made through MedLab Convo, for instance, they can adopt this idea or adopt the MedLab Convo initiative, you know, and make it a part of the medical lab science program in a way. Do you understand? Or have it as a platform that encourages, support
Yeah.
and training of the medical lab science students. So it's just about looking for what works and adopting it, because the ideas must not entirely come from our regulatory bodies. That is the reason why we are younger professionals. We think and we are innovative in our ideas. So as we come up with these ideas, we need these
Yeah.
ideas to be moved from just being ideas to getting institutionalized. We need these ideas to be institutionalized. That way, it becomes a system, and then even when we are no more or we are no longer, in whichever part of the country, it's easy for these programs to run, and then young people begin to enjoy the benefit that comes with it. So I think that's it. It's easy to do. We already have ideas on how to get these things done. We're already implementing them without the assistance of the regulatory bodies or even the government. So just adopting these ideas, for instance, can just make the whole thing easy. You know.
You put what you did is you essentially saw a problem and then you went and then you tried to solve the problem without necessarily asking for other people, other larger bodies to help you. Because I think once some people forget that when you're young, what you have is energy and what you have is ideas that the older generation usually doesn't necessarily think about. So the more, if you're able to come
Exactly.
together and then push those ideas forward, it's going to push them to try and follow you because they're going to see, wow, people they're going far. We need to follow them. We can't just let them go on by themselves. We also need to be alongside them.
Hmm.
So in many cases, I think in many cases, the younger people complain that older ones don't necessarily help them, but in some cases, it's because even as older people, sometimes you need to be inspired. When you see a young person who is
Exactly.
doing so much work and who is putting so much energy into trying to get better, it also inspires the older ones to follow you and to try and help you because in some way they see themselves in you at that age. So you need to be moving
Hmm.
for other people to come and join you also. It's like when you are creating a business, for someone to be willing to put money in the business, they need to see that you've already done some work along the way. If you have done zero and you're coming to ask for $20 million, they're going to say, okay, why should I give you $20 million? But if you've done a lot of work with even no money, and they'll go, okay, if he has done that much with no money at all, and if I give him money, then I'm sure that this
Hmm.
person will take it to the next level. I think that's one of the things that sometimes we tend to
Exactly.
forget.
That's right. And just like you rightly mentioned, one of the challenges as well for the younger colleagues or the undergraduates is also the fact that most of them don't.
No, go ahead. You're saying they also approach mentorship from the lens that,
Yeah, so some younger colleagues or some young undergraduates, because they lack the understanding of what mentorship is about, they approach the mentor from the standpoint of wanting to get either funds or wanting to get a complete commitment of their time. So it is also important to bring in that balance that a lot of young professionals or young undergraduates lack a proper understanding of what mentorship is about. So we need to be able to create a system that educates them, on what mentorship is about and how they can take advantage of mentorship for their career advancement. So, because when someone lacks a proper understanding of what mentorship is, the person is bound to go about mentorship the wrong way as a mentee. And when you approach mentorship wrongly, then you give the mentor no choice other than to just leave the mentorship scene entirely, and choose to focus on their own self rather than provide time, because you don't know the value of their time. So while we encourage senior colleagues to also commit to mentorship, it is important to also create that balance and encourage undergraduates and encourage younger professionals to also understand what mentorship is about, and then go about it the right way and seek the right opportunities from mentorship, other than expect their mentors to either pay their tuition fee, gift them money, or become that one-stop call for every problem that they come up with. So we need to create that gap. And of course, this is one of the reasons why I'm currently writing a book to help. I know I've seen that the problem is both from the side of the mentor and also the side of the intending mentees who are seeking mentorship. So I am currently working on a book that is going to provide a clear understanding for why mentorship is necessary for career advancement for younger colleagues and even undergraduates. And then this is a book that is targeted at medical lab science students and professionals across Africa. So I'm hoping that when this book is eventually launched by April this year, we should be able to have a lot of this issue around mentorship addressed. It is definitely going to close that gap because the book also teaches younger colleagues, younger professionals, and even undergraduates how to attain global relevance, even from their
Yeah.
standpoint as undergraduates or as practicing scientists. So it's about just I've identified the problem, and I'm not waiting for anybody to come and do something about it because I'm a professional who is in the profession. And if I don't create a solution for it
Yeah.
right now, if because I especially because I have the solution, then the problem itself will keep growing and be, one day I might just become that mentor who is in trouble, and then I have the wrong set of people attending to my case. So I'm trying to avoid that at all cost.
It's almost like you read my mind. You went in the direction of the question that I wanted to ask you. What I was about to say back then was, what you proposed, what would be your, what do you call it? What will you tell to young scientists who are looking for mentors on what to not do with their mentors when they are looking for mentors and while
Hmm.
they have mentors? What are the things that they should not do because it might damage that relationship?
Yeah. So this is a very good question. So one of the things I would say is that as a young professional, because right now we're speaking to both medical lab science undergraduates and we're also talking to younger professionals in the medical lab science space. So when you are interested in seeking mentorship, you need to be calculative. It's a process. You need to know that mentorship entirely is a process. It's not something that is not one off, and then it's not something that you jump into immediately and then you get the best out of it urgently. You're not urgent. You don't It's not an emergency, right? You get prepared and take time to identify the mentor that sits well with your area of interest, right? You need to do well to scout for mentors carefully. And we need to also be able to establish the fact that we younger professionals and undergraduates need to realize that there's a difference between a mentor and a role model. We need to realize that because this is also one of the mistakes I've seen a lot of individuals make. You have someone you look up to and you refer to the person as as a mentor, yet you have no access to this person, yet you don't even know where this person is. You can't relate to this person. The person have no idea who you are, right? A mentor is someone who is in your life or in the life of your career. He knows you. He knows he or she has a commitment
Mhm.
to supporting your growth and development, and is able to create that time to ensure that it provides the necessary kind of advice and guidance when you need them, right? So, as younger colleagues or as undergraduates, when seeking mentorship, one thing I advise is don't pester your mentor. If someone have agreed to mentor you, take time to work on their terms, right? Try as much as possible to be respectful in the mentorship relationship, and as well respect their time. Know that these individuals who are carving out the time to provide mentorship to you are very busy individuals who have other responsibilities to carry, but yet they choose to take a pause of their life and then support you so that you can also grow and become the best version of yourself.
Mhm.
So respect the time, and the commitment of your mentor. Okay. And then also make it a deliberate thing to identify areas through which you can support the work of your mentor, because this is another thing. A lot of the times, the mentee would think that mentorship is the bulk of mentorship is on the mentor, not knowing that the work in mentorship is both for the mentor and even for the mentee. The mentor also learns from the mentee through the mentorship relationship, as much as the mentee learns from the mentor. So, as the mentee, it is important for you to look out for ways through which you can also be of value to your mentor. If your mentor, for instance, is an author, do well to promote his works. If your mentor, for instance, is a researcher, find ways to volunteer for his research project, because if it's even in the course of working with your mentor and advancing their particular goals, that you also get to learn about the things that they do, and you're also able to harness knowledge from what they do, right? So there are quite a lot of tips. We can't spend the whole time doing that, but then I guess when my book is ready and is available in the market, I give high recommendations for every young medical lab science professional and undergraduate across both universities and colleges of health in Africa. You need to look for that book and go for it. And of course, when it's out, the news is going to be everywhere. I hope so. And then you get more knowledge from that. And trust me, it's a one-stop shop, towards addressing issues around how to get opportunities, how to get mentors, when to get mentors, and how to even carve out a niche for yourself and all that. There's a lot contained in the book. Yeah.
I think already from this small excerpt, there's a bunch of people who want to read the book already. So I think it's some good advertisement to go and get some of these other tips and then to learn exactly what it's all about, what mentorship is all about, and how they can actually make sure that at the end of the day they have really strong relationships with their mentors.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's very important, and for some persons who probably be wondering, how do they stay in touch and how do they get to know if this book is available? I have a YouTube channel. There's a channel I have. My channel on YouTube just came up yesterday, and you can search for it. Odinaka. Just search my full names, Odinaka Kingsley Obeta, on YouTube. You're going to find my YouTube channel. You can go there, subscribe, and keep tabs, because the major aim for that YouTube channel is to provide step-by-step guide and share in video content the content that will be coming in from this book. And so, but there are quite a lot of there are about a couple of contents on the YouTube channel
Right.
already, that highlight some of the work that I do in malaria, as featured by the WHO and even the African Leaders Malaria Alliance in Tanzania. So you can learn more about my work. And then another place to connect with me is, of course, via social media. So you can search LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Just search up my name, Obeta Odinaka Kingsley. You're definitely going to find me. So connect with me, because everything that happens with me, I also share on social media. So it might just be one of those opportunities, and who knows, you can be in my DM, and you just probably may just get yourself a mentor at some point. I'm not saying.
Maybe someone here. Yeah. So thanks a lot for the time. Thanks for taking your time to talk to us about this. I think we learned, everybody that watched this is really going to learn a lot, especially if they've not yet had a mentor in the past, because it's a delicate relationship that needs to be built up over time. And if you're able to build up that
Mm,
relationship, you're able to move up along with your mentor. Help your mentor, and your mentor can also help you. So it's extremely important. It's sort of, I remember
exactly.
when we were in secondary school, we used to talk about school fathers. It's kind of like a school father or a school mother in a sense,
Yeah.
in a way, somehow. So
Mm,
it's a really
yeah.
important relationship that could really allow you to move on in life. So you should build some whenever you can. And so thanks a lot for being here
Mm.
today. And hopefully we'll see you very soon again to talk about your book.
Thank you so much, Robertson. I look forward to that as much as possible, and it's a pleasure discussing this with our wonderful viewers. So I wish everyone watching the best,
All
and
right.
I do hope that you harness the best of this conversation.
So thank you for this, and see you soon. So MedLab experts, you heard it here. Look for mentors if you don't have any yet. If you have enough experience, or not even that, if you have just more experience than someone else in the field, try and mentor also people around you. And with. Thank you.